Hey, Variety Viewers. It's your host, the Jay's Variety Show here. It's Saturday, so you know what I do on Saturdays here on Jay's Variety Show. So, this is going to be a special edition of Super Shoutout Saturday because I'm sick as a fucking dog, and when I'm sick, I become very lazy, and when I'm lazy, I don't want to do much. And in order to prepare for a new episode of Super Shoutout Saturday, since everything to do with my YouTube channel is all done on my cell phone, in order to do a new Super Shoutout Saturday, I have to go through all the channels that I'm subscribed to and make a list of 20 different channels that I haven't subscribed to, but I have to go through all of them every week and make sure that I don't repeat a shoutout. And I've done 11 episodes so far, and I've only repeated one. That was Brad Media. So since I'm feeling really lazy and really sick, all nice and bundled up in my robe here from Mama Bear for Christmas. Thanks, Mama Bear. So what I'm going to do is, this is going to be a Super Shoutout Saturday recap. So what I'm going to do, a lot of people might think this is crazy, but to me this is a lot easier than sitting down and tediously going through all the channels and writing down 20 new ones, which I will be doing next Saturday when I feel better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all 11 episodes, and I'm going to give all of you guys a second super shout out. So congratulations to you all. And I've got over 200 channels to shout out here, so let's go ahead and get right into it. I'm not going to bother saying the numbers because there's just a lot. So let's just go ahead and get right into it, alright? Super shout out to Fun Toys Collector Disney Toys Review. Super shout out to Variant Comics. Super shout out to Debonair Fox. Super shout out to Planet Dolan. Super shout out to Prison Gaming UK. Super shout out to WatchMojo.com. Super shout out to Andy33. Super shout out to CBK Ajax. Super shout out to Heldacool. Super shout out to Ian CFW. Super shout out to Vidis. Super shout out to PMRO_13. It's been a while, homie. We need to chill. Super shout out to ToyCollector.com. Super shout out to PewDiePie. Super shout out to Game Ranks. Super shout out to Race Grooves. Super shoot. Oh, man. Wow. Apparently when I'm sick I can't talk either. Super shout out to Tech Racks. Super shout out to Hot Wheels News. Super shout out to Rap Critic. Super shout out to VidMag. Super shout out to Crazy Russian Hacker. Super shout out to Major Con Snipe 519. Been a while, homie. We need to chill, and you need to get some videos up. You're slacking, bro. Come on, get some videos up on YouTube. Let's go. Super shout out to Just Riley. Super shout out to Tub Gamers. Super shout out to Rush Clan. Super shout out to Bad Lip Reading. Hilarious videos. Super shout out to Icy Vortex. Super shout out to Homerino Collectibles. Super shout out to Jimmy Kimmel Live. Super shout out to World Star Hip Hop. Super shout out to American Hacker. Super shout out to E40 Vivo. Super shout out to Dig Deeper Network. Super shout out to Brad Media. Super shout out to Hip Hop DX. Super shout out to Secret Anonymous Idea. Super shout out to Explorer Gadgets. Super shout out to Marshall Rumble. Super shout out to Addictive Minecraft Evan. Super shout out to Anders Colsafini. For those of you who don't know who Anders Colsafini is, he's the very first original singer to the band Slipknot. I just kind of keep up with his vlogs and whatnot once in a while. Super shout out to Lightning Collector. Super shout out to Marco Andros. Super shout out to Faxverse. Super shout out to KDJ1. Super shout out to Luco Zad E32 Mods Gaming Tutorials. Super shout out to Looper. Super shout out to Eminem Music. Super shout out to Royalty Free Music DNR Crew. Super shout out to my big homie No Bullshit. What up? Super shout out to X Mayhem. Super shout out to New Rockstars. Super shout out to Bass Rebels, no copyright music. Super shout out to Nikali. Super shout out to OWN, the Oprah Winfrey Network. Super shout out to The Laughing Barrel TV. Super shout out to Wary JT. Super shout out to Loudwire. Super shout out to Toglism. Super shout out to Vanessa Dean. And super shout out to Michael McCrudden. Keep the Before They Were Famous videos coming. I love your channel. Keep it up. Super shout out to Chunky Plays. Super shout out to Frank XZ. Super shout out to Frank HXZ. Super shout out to Waffles the Asian Yen Bear. Super shout out to the Almighty Jellicent. Super shout out to Cool Buddy Killer. Super shout out to The Sighting. What up, homie? Thanks for all your support on my video. Shout out to Bobby DoTube. Shout out to Alana Bollard. Vlogs from Abu Dhabi, Dubai. Shout out to T1 Future. Super shout out to T1 Future. Super shout out to Sammy Kate Williams. Super shout out to Every Little Story. Super shout out to Vossi46 Gaming. Shout out to T&E Gaming. Super shout out to Original Infinite. Soupy. Really? Super shout out to my boy Husky Wolf Gamer. Super shout out to my boy Tweak Runner. What up, peeps? Super shout out to Maze Gilliam. Super shout out to Alan97. Super shout out to Library of Alexandria. Super shout out to Colacity. Super shout out to L321 Mods Gaming Tutorials. Super shout out to Syndrome 208. Super shout out to Ensurity. Super shout out to The Holy Apple. Super shout out to Wezwa. Super shout out to Pooter. Love that channel name, Pooter. Super shout out to Let's Play Together. Super shout out to Goro Mode. Super shout out to Dan Sullivan. Super shout out to Danny Forbes. This is a very important super shout out. This is a super shout out to my big homie, the Cape Crusader. I appreciate what you got going on for me right now, homie. I can't wait to see what you come up with. I'm super excited. So again, super duper fucking fat super shout out to the Cape Crusader, man. Super fucking shout out for you, buddy. Also keep up the good work, Cape Crusader. I love your channel. You're fucking hilarious in all your videos. straight up. Super shout out to Zone Relic. Super shout out to Schnapton. Super shout out to Anna Makota. Super shout out to Yellow Rose Lola. Super shout out to Kismet. Super shout out to Cobra. Super shout out to Fact Nominal. Super shout out to Carniclose. Oh, just warning you right now, if partway through the video you see me get up and fucking run, it's because I'm heading to the bathroom to get some stuff out of my tummy. Super shout out to Knots S. Doogie. Super shout out to Aussie Sam Games. Super shout out to Boogie Plays Games. Super shout out to Brianna Couch. Super shout out to Jolly HD. Super shout out to Anton Cogdell. Super shout out to African Sensei. Super shout out to Jennifer and Angel. Super shout out to Pedro Seth. Super shout out to Dan Gold TV. Super shout out to Trigger Nation. Super shout out to Your Discovery Science. Super shout out to AK Production. Super shout out to Zen Punk. Super shout out to Jenna Marbles. Chick, you're fucking hilarious. Super shout out to What Culture Wrestling. Super shout out to AUC Hotspot. Super shout out to Nightbot. Super shout out to Nikki Swift. Super shout out to Screen Rant. Super shout out to Malu Gaming. Super shout out to Ashman TV. Super shout out to Techzada. Super shout out to Not.4 Live. Super shout out to HQ Live. Super shout out to John Nani. Super shout out to MGK Vivo. Super shout out to Dang Matt Smith. Super shout out to Christopher Cherigo. Super shout out to Matthew Santoro. Super shout out to GTA Workshop. Super shout out to What Culture. Super shout out to ASAP Science. Super shout out to DJ Vlad. Super shout out to Hip Wiki. Super shout out to Game Specs Gameplay. Super shout out to WWE Backstage Fallout. Super shout out to the big homie, Big 420 Punisher. What up, dog? Super shout out to Megs the Hybrid One. Super shout out to 24K Mixtapes. Super shout out to Adam MacArthur. Super shout out to Jake the Hawk. Super shout out to Luke Graham. Super shout out to Joe Cox 49. Super shout out to the big homie Knife Guy Productions. What up? Super shout out to Lord Aaron Pham. Super shout out to Ann. Super shout out to WrestleMania Obscure WWE Facts. Super shout out to Inda News TV. Super shout out to YMB Gaming. Super shout out to Chris Van Villay. Super shout out to Power Pug Show. Super shout out to Celebrity Insta Videos. Super shout out to the Funky Man RORO or the Funky Man Roro. Super shout out to the Gentleman Cabbie. Super shout out to the Richest. Super shout out to Callum Nolan. Super shout out to Wrestle Talk TV. Super shout out to WWE. Super shout out to Official Life Facts. Three more episodes. 3 more lists to go. Almost done. Super shout out. Oh, look at, there's another one that I repeated and didn't even realize it. Looks like you get a 3rd one. Super shout out to Marco Andros. One more time. Super shout out T Mist of Jade. Super shout out Void Havoc. Super shout out YTS. Super shout out David Dubrick 2. Super shout out to Nexus. Super shout out to Laura Clary. Her flirting with Steven videos, I just can't get enough. Super shout out to Gaming. Super shout out to Stefan DeBurr. Super shout out to Frank on TV. Super shout out to Flunatrays Pam. Super shout out to Mad Soul. Super shout out to Timbalino Demuth. Super shout out to Callan Dinulet. Super shout out to Tic Taz Toe. Super shout out to my big homie OG Nudes. What up, son? You need to get your YouTube channel up and going. The only reason I'm shouting you out is because you're my homie and I know you got a channel and I'm subscribed to it. So get some fucking videos up, homie. Super shout out to Mwad H. Super shout out to one of my favorite Canadian rapper out there, Mad Child. Shout out, super shout out. Super shout out to RSG Shadow Ninja. Super shout out to DD Karaoke Outlaw. Super shout out to Global News. Super shout out to Neum H Collins. Super shout out to Ollie43. Super shout out to the XP Gamers. Super shout out to Yellow Wolf Vivo. Super shout out to JJ Bear 04. Super shout out to Nelson Torres. Super shout out to Anthony Carr. Super shout out to Mega Party. Super shout out to I'm T2. Looks like 2, but it could be Z. Super shout out to Cobra Online. Super shout out to Bradley Closser. Super shout out to Realistics X Gaming. Super shout out to VIP Television. Super shout out to Eric S. Burden. Super shout out to Gamer Goldfish. Super shout out to the What the Fuck Files 2. Sorry, the WTF Files 2. Super shout out to Carlube. Super shout out to Psycho. Super shout out to AF Guides HD. Super shout out to Foshi I'm Det. Super shout out to Who Is They. Super shout out to Princess Attitude 99. Super shout out to RYLH. Super shout out to Julian Dominguez. Super shout out to Mad Yock. Super shout out to Countdown Wrestling. Super shout out to Warn the World. Super shout out to K-Mac Time. Super shout out to Chuzzy Army. Super shout out to the Fight Bros. Super shout out to Top 10 Information. Super shout out to Eminem Fan Compilation. Super shout out to Tesla Gaming. Super shout out to Infinitive. Super shout out to Fat Phone Games. Super shout out to Velocify. And last but not least, super shout out to iPriority. Holy. I believe that was about 220 channels that I just shouted out. So congratulations to all of you guys. You guys all deserve these super shout outs. I do my best to keep up with all your channels. I'm on YouTube a lot. So I do my best to keep up with you guys and, you know, like your content and all that good stuff. Next Saturday, I should be feeling a lot better, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to write up a list of 20 new channels to give a super shout out. Yeah, like I said, all you guys deserve these shout outs, and all you guys keep up the great work. I'm always entertained by all your content. Hopefully you guys are entertained by my content as well. And like I said from the very beginning, I'm not doing these shoutouts to get any kind of recognition for it. I am legitimately doing these shoutouts to show all these channels my support. This is just one way that I thought of to show all these guys support, so that's what I'm going to do. If you guys like the videos, you appreciate the shoutouts, go ahead and comment down below. I do my best to respond to all my comments, and yeah, everything like that. Working on my logo to get up for my channel. I'm pretty excited about that. I got a couple versions of it to decide on. I think I might stick with the original now that I'm looking at it again. I really like it. And again, make sure you guys just check out all these channels. Subscribe to all these channels, you know. They work hard. They put a lot of time and a lot of effort into making good content for your enjoyment. And, you know, serious videos, funny videos, happy videos, sad videos, you know, vlogs, all kinds of stuff. So show these channels some support, you know. Subscribe, drop some likes, drop some comments, and of course stay tuned for some more Jay's Variety Show. So thanks guys, take care.